Alright, so I've been working on this thing on and off since about June, and here we are about August here, and I figured I would show my Edsel here. And this has been an ongoing battle with this thing, and just getting the brakes and the front suspension and getting everything right. The brakes not really too much of an issue, but this front suspension on this car has been a living nightmare. It really has. And you know, I do plan on putting 4-wheel disc brakes on this car soon, but for now we just want to be able to drive it and enjoy it, but make the car safe again. Because this car, the reason this car has been parked for a good long time is because this car was truly unsafe, and it just, you know, had a lot of issues. The suspension had so much slop. You were driving like this down the road, and it's just had this suicide power assist steering on the car. And I mean, I like it because it's original, but it had a little ball joint and all that. And I kind of explained this much different times, but not a fan of that. And it just added way more slop into the steering than what should have been there. And you know, you just can't, you know, be playing with your brakes and your steering. And so I went ahead and rebuilt the whole entire front suspension on this car, put all new coil springs on it, new upper lower ball joints, inner and outer tie rod sleeves. I put new sway bar bushings in it, and I mean, everything is new. You know, now it's done rain, and some of the dirt's done, where it rains hard enough, it'll, I guess, kind of bounce back up, done dirtied everything back up. But it's got all new upper lower ball joints in it, and we ended up reusing our new quotations there shocks. I actually bought them back in 2019, I believe, and it's nothing really wrong. They still work, but I am going to replace them later on. But this car probably doesn't even have not even maybe 2,000 miles on it, if that. Probably not even nowhere near that since I've driven it. I'd say maybe about 1,000 miles I've done put on this car since I've owned it, and that's about it. But and the reason being is because this car, you know, it's just domino effect. You know, it's, you start working on stuff, this car is, you know, almost 70 years old, and it's just, you know, it's getting old. So that domino effect, and went ahead and just replaced everything on this thing. I put new bushings in it, and I mean, it's got new upper and lower control arm bushings, and I just, you know, like I said, sway bar bushings. These right here were a fucking pain, but I did find them. But you gotta watch the length on these right in here. But don't overthink it like I did a little bit. Really, all you need is just these bushings. You need 4 bushings. There's 3 there, and then there's 1 up underneath. And then as long as you got these washers on it, that's all it really matters. Because you could take, really in reality, you could take a cutoff wheel and cut this to the same size as what the original was. You know, if you really had to do that. You know, don't overthink that. But they were definitely a nightmare. The Coil Springs were a little bit of a nightmare. But after doing a lot of research, you know, it just, when I found out these Coil Springs, they were wanting about $300 for these Coil Springs. And I'm just not going to pay that. That's just ridiculous. And I ended up buying these Coil Springs for about, I think they're about 120 bucks, something like that. And ended up getting these Coil Springs. They're the same coil spring as basically a 63 Galaxy. So a lot of secret to if you got a 59 Edsel, I'm sure it's the same, similar kind of concept with the 58 or a 60. But it seems like the magic thing about everything, there is just buy 63 Galaxy parts and you'll be good to go. That seems to solve a lot of the issues. But that's what I ended up doing. But and one thing, like I said too, do not ever separate this drum from this hub. Never do that, because I did that and I fucked up when I did that. Because when you do that, it's a nightmare trying to find these studs, these wheel studs, because I knocked all the wheel studs out and I separate the drum from the hub assembly, and you cannot find these wheel studs anywhere. They're like one of a kind, and it's just, You cannot find them. I don't even think they actually make that size. The only way you could really truly correct that is you almost have to take the hub to a machine shop and go to the next size up. But just be careful when you do that. Don't ever do that. Just take the cotter key out, take the dust cap off, you take the cotter key out, take the spindle nut, pull that off, and pull the whole drum and the hub together as an assembly. Because you could take that to somewhere local, and I'm not really sponsoring anybody, but you can take it to somewhere like O'Reilly's or something, and they could put that whole drum and the hub assembly on a lathe, and or not a lathe, but a their brake drum turner there, and they could turn it with the hub and everything together. Just make sure you take your bearings out and clean the races out real good. You got to have the races in it, just remember that. But that way it'll turn true there, and just make sure. I would go on and put new races in it, honestly. Or, well, I don't know. I'm kind of 50-50 on that. But if the races are really bad, make sure they're not tight. Make sure they're, you want them good and tight, but make sure they don't, have a lot of slop and everything in them. But, enough about that. I'm not going to ramble on. But that's the magic thing here is 63 Coil Springs. You can get regular 59 Edsel shocks. Those you can find easy. You can just type in 59 Edsel shocks. That'll pop right up. And Coil Springs are 63 Galaxy Coil Springs. The sway bar end links, I believe, are for... It wasn't for a 63 Galaxy. These were actually for a 59 Edsel. And I did show the part number on that. And you have to go back in the videos and watch that. But it is there. And I didn't like these upper ball joints. They didn't fit very well. They're kind of junk in my opinion. But they work. And I had to go in there and kind of modify and kind of turn down the outer diameter there so it would drop in this control arm here, because I don't want to be hogging out my A arm here. I'd rather hog out the ball joint. But I'd rather not do either one of them, but it wouldn't drop down in there and sit flush on top of your A arm. So I had some issues with that. But I just went in there and turned it down a little bit. That way it would sit in there flush. That took care of that issue. And not happy about that. But this car did have adjustable lower ball joints here. It doesn't anymore. But they were upgraded as well. But they're all bolt on. But you got to have a coil spring compressor for this car. It's no way around it. I tried taking the floor jack and tried to set the coil spring up in there. And I kind of mentioned this before, but I mean, it's impossible. I tried to jack the whole assembly up and everything to compress the coil spring, but it's not gonna work. Not gonna work. So I think these coil springs might be a shade taller, but it's like not even that much difference. Just maybe half an inch. That's about it. But I don't even think they're really that much different. It's hard to really tell for sure, because the original coil springs that come off this car were just shot. I mean, it's it's got the 361 in it, and that's not a weight on the front end on this car. It's just the whole everything mechanically on this car is just about shot. I mean, it's about had it. But the car itself is a very solid car. It's just everything needs to be gone through mechanically. So I've been working on this thing, trying to get everything greased up here, and I have my grease gun out, and I got to do the driver's side yet, but I'm working on it, and getting ready to rain here, unfortunately. But this has been a nightmare, and I ended up running I haven't shown y'all before. It's a 63 Galaxy drag link, and I gotta find the correct idler arm bracket, and I might have to switch out the idler arm. I don't know yet. That's the only two things that are left on it. But the original 59 Edsel idler arm itself will work, but that bracket is will not. I mean, I'll have to figure out something about that. I can make it work, but that little cylinder with a power assist where it goes through and bolts through, need to either notch it out and get rid of that, or either just basically just find the correct idler arm bracket. I need one for manual steering, but this car is going to get power steering back on it. But in order to do that, I had to swap the drag link and just get rid of all that power assist junk. and because I'm gonna run a Borg Warson steering box, well, just a regular Saginaw steering box, and that'll be later on. That and the 4-wheel disc brake kit will be much later on. But that is our that's our beautiful 69 Mustang dual brake master cylinder. It's got a 1-inch bore on it, and I'm gonna trim this line right here back just a little bit. It's a little long right there. I'll trim that off right here so it'll tuck it in and pull that over a little bit. Looks a little kind of ugly, but so it does bolt right up, no issues there. The original push rod that was in this car worked just fine. I don't really see any issues with it so far, so I don't think really gonna have to worry about that. But if you don't have that push rod, I highly suggest getting one that's adjustable, and you need a pretty good long one, so you know, to get the correct geometry and everything set up like it's supposed to be. But so we ended up running a 69 Mustang, just a manual dual brake master cylinder, and again, that is temporary. And yes, I know I got some holes over there. That's from the clowns that had the car before. They didn't know what they were doing, and I kind of point that out. That's actually a bolt hole right there, and then these two they drilled to put that brake booster on, and it's, you know, all that will be welded up and taken care of. I actually got to get a bolt that goes right here, and then I'll weld these 2 bolt holes up that they drilled and screwed up the firewall, but that will be addressed. But this car, been working on, like I said, on and off like crazy on this car since June, and you know, like I said, it's just the domino effect. I couldn't just do the front suspension on this car and not address the brakes. And you know, they've been done before. All the hardware, the shoes, all the hardware, the springs, everything's been completely gone through except for the parking cables. I got to do that yet, but all the drums have been turned and everything. And it's got actually, I believe, a 60 drum on that side, and then this is off of a 59 Ford, same thing. But you just got to watch. It's a nightmare with these drums on this car because you got to watch this different shoes that the width of it you got to watch, so you got to be careful about that. Some of them are 2.5, some of them are 2 1/4, and some of them are 2 and something weird like 2 and I don't know, maybe I'm thinking the brakes 2 1/8 or 2 and 32 50-seconds or 33 50-seconds or something weird and oddball. But so you gotta watch the width on your shoes there. But that's why I'm gonna ditch all this, and we're gonna put 4-wheel disc brakes on it. And not right now, but for now I just want to drive it and enjoy it. And like I said, it's just domino effect. I couldn't leave the brake lines like that. I had replaced all of them except for this front passenger side one and the front to rear brake line. And you know, it was nothing really wrong. The front to rear needed to be replaced. That was pretty much mandatory. But the passenger side was actually just perfectly fine. It was just covered in grease. But you know, we're just not going to half-ass stuff like that because it's unacceptable. And you know, it's just the way it is. You know, you're playing with your life. You need to fix your brakes right. That's just the way it is. And you know, I'm just speaking the truth. But let me show you what the brake lights, not the brake light, but what all the brake lines and everything look like on this car, what we were dealing with. Alright, so this is one brake line that was on it. This one tied into the rear brake hose right here on our rear end on our Edsel here. Then come over and they had the junk, you know, quick connect, nothing even flare or anything like that. I forget what you call them exactly, but basically the you can buy them kit there that ends up you don't have to flare anything or anything like that. These are completely very unsafe. Never use that thing. Completely junk and not safe. So that was on there. And then this other brake line right here, this was part of the front to rear brake line. Or no, I told you I'm wrong. No, these were actually together. And it curved around and had to go over the frame and over to the other side. It had a kind of a weird bend there, but somebody made this whole piece right here, and they just, you know, halfway do stuff like that. And then you know, they replaced that, but yet the rest of the line from this point all the way to the front of the car was just scaly and everything else. And I mean, it's not that hard. Brake lines are not that expensive. And it's just, I don't understand, you know, why you wouldn't just cut it off and, you know, get it out carefully so you can get the bends off of it and just take the new line and hold them together and just bend it up the same way. And I'll even take the old line, and if somebody's replaced it before but it's rusted out again or something, I've had that happen before, and if it's not bent very good, you know, kind of halfway done or something like that, and it looks kind of, you know, kind of rough looking, I'll actually take the old line and I'll bend it out and straighten it up a little bit. And well, I'll say bend it out, but I'll kind of straighten some of the bends up and make it more better, even because it really don't matter if you kink it, because it's an old junk line you're replacing anyway. But I'll actually bend it up the way I want it, and then I'll take the new line and bend it to that old line. But that makes it really nice. But let me show you some of these brake lines on here. But so I had to replace the front driver's side one. This is the first one. This one just jumps right over from that brake hose right there, and I bent it around the center fender right here, and it's got more clamps than what it looks. So I can put my whole hand back here. But I bent that up like that and bent it around that inner fender, and it comes around to our distribution block, which is hard to see. Plug wires in the way, but it goes right there. Comes around and goes straight into our T. That's the first one, and then we have another one that jumps from here, from our T, and goes all the way around right here. Let me show y'all what I'm showing. There we go. Comes around here, and then goes around there, and comes underneath our radiator right here, underneath the radiator hose. That's how the original was. And comes all the way around there, and go to the passenger side, and comes up in front of our horn, goes over, and then to the passenger side. All these are 3/16 brake lines, by the way. That's why I love this car, because all of them are 3/16, so you can get a whole roll of 3/16 and do the whole car. And then comes around, I bend it up a little bit. I might trim this down just a little bit to get rid of that ugly bend, and kind of address that a little bit, but I'm not too worried about it right now. I got to get a little clip to hold this brake hose in. I need 3 of them. It's got a groove on this brake hose here, and I need two for the front and one for the rear brake hose, and I don't have any. And them things are like $5 for a pack of like 2 of them or something like that. It's something ridiculous for them stupid clips. But I mean, you can use a regular GM clip. It's the same thing, but basically. But anyway, so I gotta get that little clip and put it right there. That's why you can wiggle all that around. That'll lock that down. And so that's bent right there. And then of course got the new brake hoses on it. I didn't put these brake hoses on it. They were actually on it. And that was one thing. They put new wheel cylinders on it and brake hoses, and halfway did that one brake line and just left it. And then they ended up taking and putting a T. They had a dual master cylinder in that brake booster, but they put a T in it and run it like it was a single. So they had 2 lines coming off the master cylinder, and then it had a T at the bottom, and that tied off to all the brake lines. It's just, yeah, it's just not safe. Not safe. And I corrected all that when I first bought the car, and then I just, you know, like I said, it needed the front passenger side brake line, and I needed a front to rear brake line. And I just, you know, ain't drove it really enough to really worry that much about it. But now I've had the time to do it. I want to do it right. So anyway, so then we got the front to rear up here, and I put a union. It's hard to see, but it's way up there, and I flared it. And then bent that, and then it comes right down here. And these lines are not perfect. This is our body mount right here. Comes underneath there just like the original. That's our fuel line on top. I'm going to replace that next. I got to pull that off and get rid of that. It's a 3/8 fuel line. I got a big coil 3/8 fuel line I'm going to bend up. But that's coming off next to get replaced too. But comes through there. And there's a little clip there. And then goes straight down, goes around our other body mount. And goes all the way down. And then got another union right here. It's got 2 unions on this front to rear brake line. So I don't like putting unions in. The one up here is fine. That's not going to hurt nothing. It's supposed to be one there anyway. There's one there, you know, from a single master cylinder. It's, you know, it's always supposed to be one there. But that was fine. The one down here, I really didn't want to do that, but this is where they put that jump piece in here. Let's see if I can show you this. This is a shoddy camera worker. Alright, I'm gonna flip around. There we go. So I put this union in here. There we go. So I flared these lines, put a union in there, and I had these unions. The little story about that, I had them things sitting in my Durango for like probably about a year in the cup holder, and I never did put them on this thing. And then when I went to actually go open it up and put them on, they're for 1/4 inch. This is 3/16. So they've been sitting there for a year and they're the wrong size. So I had to go, and luckily I had this one, and then the other one I robbed it off my '89 Ford. I don't like reusing fittings because my personal opinion is they're kind of a one-time use kind of thing. I mean, I don't know, that's just me. I'd rather just replace the fittings. They're not that much. But when you're doing brake lines, you want to kind of eliminate as many connections as you possibly can. You want as much of a solid piece, hard line as possible without a bunch of, you know, fittings like this, because it eliminates leaks like that, and you know, it looks a lot better. But this one is just, it's no way around it. I mean, it curls around the frame and then it comes out right in here. There's no way around it. And yeah, I got a hole here. I was going to try and stick it in the hole through the frame and come out that way, but that's just the way it was. I mean, so I don't think that's actually original. I think it actually might have come through this hole through there originally, but then again, I kind of doubt it, because our fuel line, this is our original fuel line, and it comes right here, and then it shoots over and goes across the top of the frame, and then comes out on the other side, and then goes straight on back. So I'm not sure how that was done originally. I can't really tell, because that's where they replaced that brake line. So they replaced it from here back to the rear brake hose, which is right there. So anyway, so it comes over the frame right here, and then that's the way. I mean, as far as I can tell, I can't find no information, because like I said, it's hard to find any information on these cars. But it comes over top of the frame, comes around, and I still got to tweak this. I'm gonna straighten it up and get a little bit better bends, but it's on here for now. And I bent this up, comes around, sitting in the clip up here, and then comes around right here, and to our brake hose. That's actually a GM rear brake hose, because he couldn't find no rear brake hoses for this car whatsoever, and the ones that I found had a T fitting in here that was built into that rear brake hose, and I didn't like it, because there was something about it I really didn't like. So I can't remember what it was. I don't remember what it was. But anyway, so I just used a regular GM rear brake hose that was the same length, and that was set up for it's actually a 1/4 inch right here. So I got an adapter here, and then of course I got a regular standard 3/16 brake line here. I don't like running fittings like this, because you want to keep as less fittings out of here and as much solid line as you possibly can, so it eliminates leaks, and just makes the brake system stronger, I guess you would say, because you don't have a bunch of fittings in there. And just sometimes you can't really help it, you know. But I couldn't really help that. I could probably eliminate this fitting here and do some research on this. Y'all could probably, you know, if you got an Edsel, y'all could probably do a little more research and find a rear brake hose that's the same length as this, that splits off for the driver's side and the passenger side, and probably just figure out something like that, and you know, but have it the different end for 3/16. But I tried to figure something out about that, but you know, it's at the time that was as best as I could do. But you know, we could, if you eliminate this adapter here, that would be really good. But theoretically, the fuel lines and brake lines on this cart were installed on the frame before the body was ever set on, as you can just tell by looking at them. So that's probably why it was run like that. See, that fuel line comes out through there, and it comes all the way around, and it bends up, comes around, and it goes straight on back there. Yeah, then it comes underneath there. But yeah, that's the only really rust we got right there. Is that brace right there, and then that's pretty much about it. We got a little rust area right there, and a little bit one up there. That's not too bad. And then we got one little hole on the back seat area, so not too bad, not too bad. But that's what we got, and I figured I'd make a good video of this. And I apologize, I know it's not perfect, but you know, it's just trying to find information on these cars is just about impossible. So if you don't know, I use regular .3 brake fluid. I mean, pretty much standard for anything. But yeah, so if you got an Edsel, you could probably do the brake lines on this car for like 75 bucks. I mean, that's just replacing all the hard lines and everything. But get you the best way to do it, and the cheapest way to do it, in my personal opinion, is buy you a good roll of probably, you could get 2 rolls of 3/16 brake line. I bought it off eBay, and that was about, they're 25 foot long a piece, so that's 50 foot total for 2 coils. And I bought 2 coils that come with the fittings and everything. I think I showed that, and I got everything for like 30 bucks, and that was it. But that made it really nice. I think the only trouble I had with the brakes system on this thing is the master cylinder. They had adapters on there. I don't know why, but couldn't figure that out. But I just ditched them, and you know, these just threaded. This is the same fittings. I had to reuse these fittings. That's the only fittings I reused, and they're actually a steel fitting. So had to do that, and then they threaded in just fine on this master cylinder. They threaded just fine in on the other master cylinder, so I don't know why they did that. They had 2 adapters right there, so I don't know. I just didn't get that. And I still got to swap this brake pedal out. I'm going to pull it out because they kind of hacked on it a little bit. And I'm going to pull it out and get that other one out of the other pedal assembly and throw in here, because that's a good original one. I have another 59. And like I said, that just the brake pedal pad part, you can take a wrench at socket and pull that off, and take this one off, since it's a automatic one, basically automatic, and swap that out on the manual pedal assembly there on your manual brake pedal. And that should take care of this issue that I got. That's why I got that. But so I got to think about, you know, these brakes here on this car, and kind of overthinking a little bit. And I bled these brakes by myself. And I did not use the, if you're thinking too about it, I did not use the hose and the bottle method and hooking it on the bleeder screw and bleeding it like that. And I actually didn't do it like that. I'll tell you how I did it. I just, you know, pumped them like normal. And I didn't even bench bleed that master cylinder. I just filled it up with brake fluid, and just held it in my hand, pumped it a couple times till it squirted out, and then I just bolted it on the car. I mean, I know that's not the way to really do it the correct way, but that's the way I did it. I threw it on here, and it's set for, you know, probably a good solid week since that master cylinder's been bolted on here, and I did paint it. But it's kind of a pet peeve of mine. I don't like to put the master cylinder on that's bare like that and end up, you know, rusting, flash rusting like that, and then it kind of looks, you know, kind of rough later. But so I did paint that. But that's the way I did it. I just filled up brake fluid and put the cover, and it snapped on there, and then just held it in my hand and took a screwdriver, put the end, squirted out, bolted it on, And then I took these 2 plugs right here that it comes with. Not all of them come with it, but this one did. I threaded them on. That way we can get dirt and mud divers and everything else in it. And set for a week. Then I made my brake lines up. I probably flared all these brake lines up probably in 5 minutes. Because I used that Eastwood tool. I'm not sponsoring them or nothing. I'm just a shade tree guy. And I tell you what, I saved a lot of time. Most of my time was bending these brake lines here. And I did have one coil I put in here. So it's got a little coil. It's hard to see, but it's way right there. Got that coil in it, so it's got a little spring on it. And another one I bent up. And I did plumb this. So this is your front, and this is your rear. Front, rear, front, rear. And if it was a GM vehicle, this would be the front, and this would be the rear. But that's the way this was plumbed, like on a 69 Mustang, so I plumbed it just like that. So I don't think it's going to really hurt anything. And I guess Ford's kind of weird about it, but that's the way it was. So this is the front brakes. This is the rear brakes. Honestly, realistically, it probably wouldn't have mattered if you would have done the front and the rear that way, but I did the front and the rear like that because that's the way, you know, it was supposed to be done. So that's the way I did it. Ford's weird. But so anyway, I took and pumped the pedals, plumbed everything up, and before I even really worried about bleeding them, I just pumped the brakes a few times, and I went over all my fittings and everything, and just started from like the rear brake hose and just worked my way all the way around to the front of the car. And that way I just kept pumping them, playing with them, not really worried about bleeding them. Kept doing that, and that way I eliminated all my leaks. And once I eliminate the leaks, then I started from the passenger side rear, bled that, and then I bled the driver's side rear, and then passenger side front, and then driver's side front. That's the way I do this car, because that's the way they're set up, and that's the way you would have did it originally anyway, even if it had the single dual, the single master cylinder on it. So it really wouldn't matter if it had a single or a dual. You do the passenger side rear, driver's side rear, passenger side front, and then your driver's side front. But that's the way, you know, you do it no matter what, on this car anyway. And what I did is I just pumped them up like I was sitting in it and somebody was back there. I pumped it up, and then I just stuck something between the pedal and the seat so it would hold the pedal down. And then I went back there, cracked it open, and then left it open just for a second, come around, push the pedal the rest of the way down, did not let off the pedal whatsoever, and then shoved something between the pedal and the seat again so it would hold it all the way down, come back, shut the bleeder, and just kept repeating it over and over and over again. And I finally got enough of a pedal right now that it's pretty good. I mean, so it's pretty good. You can hear that the brakes definitely we definitely got a pedal, that's for sure. So anyway, I figured I would show you that, and I think we're on the end of the video here. And well, thank y'all for watching, and I got to replace the side glass in this car. And there'll definitely be more updates on this. I'm going to show you some more updates, but we do have brakes somewhat on the car. And I'm going to get my buddy to come down and we're going to bleed them again just to make sure everything's right. But I just want to get enough of a pedal on it so I can at least move this car around. But it's not going to go on the road yet. We're not just going to take it on the road like that. I'll get my buddy to come around and bleed them again just to double check. But I didn't see any more air out of it. But that's how I kept doing it. As long as you don't let off that brake pedal so it doesn't suck air back in, you're good. All you really need is something to hold that pedal down. Just pump it a couple times and get something to hold it. It doesn't have to be pressed all the way down. And shove something between the seat and that brake pedal as long as it's holding it down. Then go crack it open and then come around, push the rest of the way down, shove something between the brake pedal and the seat so it holds the brake pedal down. Close the bleeder screw and just keep pumping it. Keep doing that process over and over again. Because I tried the balls and everything, nothing works. And don't use that vacuum pump. They ain't worth nothing. They're not. But that's what I did. I mean, it's a shade tree way doing it, but I got enough of a pedal now I can at least move it around. And so that's the one-way man person to do it. But one man brake bleeder. But anyway, so that's where we're at. It's not perfect, but again, this is shade tree work. Thanks for watching.